How's it going, dudes? You know, with most of the games I cover coming from decades long past, it's reassuring to know that humanity still has the capability to make a game that really makes you go, what? Monopoly Scrabble, the official fusion of both Monopoly and Scrabble into the ever-elusive board game. Oh, right, rare find right there. Now, whenever one of these puppies approaches you, show it a bit of kindness by tossing it a few scraps from your lunchbox. Another one fished out of the ever-reliable aisles of Target. You know that when something looks this obtuse, I've gotta get my dirty mitts on it and take a look for myself. Unfortunately, seeing as we're going to be dealing with double the board gaming action than normal, I'll have to replace one of our usual categories to compensate. I assure you that all will be worth it though in order to answer the two questions that have grabbed this world by the collarbone. Is this game any good at all? And how does it compare to our other Target titles? It's going up against, some real rock stars here, so let's dive on into Hasbro's newest attempt to stay relevant with some Monopoly Scrabble. So, something a few of you must be wondering is, how did these knuckleheads carefully craft this combination of cherished children's challenges? Well, it was quite the delicate process. You see this middle part here? Yeah, we smashed a Scrabble board in there. Innovation that excites. Really just flex taped that sucker on there. They did not waste any space on this board. Some would call it efficient, some would call it cluttered. It really just depends on how much information your eyes can take in all at once. Of course, with no middle of the board anymore, this means that the chance and community chest cards have been demoted to the side of the board now, which is a terrible look for their careers going forward. You, of course, get your iconic Monopoly playing pieces alongside your iconic Scrabble tiles and trays, but while these two are pretty solid, I guess they had to keep the cost down somewhere because these trays are much lower quality than I remember. They are very rough to the touch, and the wood is flaking off of them at points. It looks like it just came out of the workshop class. But back to the boards. The middle one here carries all of the Scrabble features you want and desire, but has added property groups to the Power Spaces lineup. But as Monopoly's name does come first on the box, that technically makes this one a Monopoly revamp. And if you remember how well Hasbro treats their new Monopoly titles, then you're probably waiting to hear what vital spaces they've completely axed for no reason. Well, lucky for you, this time they've managed to leave all of the major spaces intact. Technically, yeah, seemingly nothing important from the Monopoly board has been cut this time around. Properties, chance, community chest, railroad, utilities, the only things that are missing from this one are the tax spaces, and I really don't think too many people will be distraught over that one. Mine taxes. But as you look a little closer, something seems to be a bit off here. Why does each property group only have one space? Actually, come to think of it, where are the houses? Where are the hotels? Where are the dice? And this is where we hit the schmeat of the game. As this isn't just a Monopoly title with a Scrabble minigame or vice versa, you are legitimately playing these two games at the same time. Here's how it works. You have your 7 Scrabble tiles, and at the start of your turn, you will play a word. And based on how many Scrabble points that word would normally get you, you move your Monopoly piece that many spaces on the board. So, for example, if I were to play crap here off of my opponent's whack, then that score would tally up to 8, and I would move 8 spaces to the light blue color group. Oh, that's a really good idea. Oh, the bad game stock is tanking. This has gotta be one of the most creative movement mechanics I have ever seen. It works so well, and theoretically means that you can choose whatever space you want to land on if you can manage to put the right word together. The book doesn't come with any time limit for your turn though, so I highly recommend adding one so you might be able to finish this one before the end of the week. But look at that electric opening turn by me. I've made my way to the light blue space immediately, and this means that I am now the proud owner of the brown color group. Huh? Yeah, the Scrabble board is not done with you yet. In this game, you do not purchase properties by landing on them. Instead, you gain a color group by covering up its spot on the Scrabble board with one of your words. Like with how my C in crap took the browns right here. This also means that if you own a color group and somebody plays onto a different brown space later, then they are going to steal that property from you a la Cheater's Edition. But Monopoly isn't the only game that has had stuff cut, as don't like your letters and feel like exchanging them for new ones? Too bad! You need to use the letters you're given whether you like them or not. But if you find yourself struggling to make a word, then the bank can offer you a bit of help. For a price. Introducing the bank tray. At any point during the game, you can purchase letters from the bank tray for $100 a letter, and they can be added to whatever word you are trying to build that turn, effectively giving you access to 2 trays of letters at all times. This really frees up your options and forces you to consider if the movement is worth the money, and confound it, that's another great idea! A few other changes. Free parking now always has some money in there for you to land on, a la one-upmanship. You now receive $2,000 every time you pass go. God save Mr. Monopoly, the inflation here is crazy! And the game now ends when the final Scrabble tile is played. Whoever has the most money in cash and properties wins. The game does say that it is still technically possible to go bankrupt, but with the $2,000 Go payout and how you don't even need to pay for the properties, they say that this is extremely rare. I say that if you still manage it, it might be time to hang up the jacket. You are not recovering from that. But before we see what else Mr. Pennybags has for us today, let's see how we can get a few more pennies in your bag with today's sponsor, Rocket Money. As longtime viewers know, I only take sponsors that I think can offer a unique benefit to my audience. And after going from having no budget at all to being able to craft one specifically around my spending habits, I must say Rocket has proven quite beneficial. Rocket Money is the easy-to-use app that helps you manage your money and save more in the process. It does this by helping craft a customized budget that identifies your top spending categories, giving you a better idea on where your money is going and offering insights on how to better stay within that budget. Now that I know my total monthly cash flow, I can better see where I can cut costs and prepare to save for the future, which is quite helpful in the event that I decide to continue surviving. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description to get started for free, and take control of your finances today with Rocket Money. Thank you again to Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. Now let's return to whatever the heck is going on with the Pennybags bloodline now. So now we know how they've managed to mash these two together, but we've still yet to see what happens when we actually run it for real. So let's turn the ignition on this bad boy and see whether or not this engine is going to explode. The biggest new thing to figure out is the movement. Since this is what you'll be spending most of your time doing, how good is the diceless movement? It's pretty good. It gives you a much greater control over your movement if you want it, and if you really don't care all that much, then you can just go for the highest word score and rock it around the board. It also makes you think about the values of each of the letters more if you are trying to avoid a certain space, and is a really creative way to mesh the gameplay of each title together. Overall, they killed this part. But the movement is probably the only thing I'd say they knocked out of the park, as all of the other changes that they've made to facilitate this combo cause at least a little bit of structural damage. I hate what they've done to the properties. These properties look like they came straight out of 2008. So in order to prevent the Scrabble part of this game from just being the replacement for the dice, they decided to also make it the way you get properties. But in order to make this work, they needed to change the properties a lot, and this leaves them just looking awful. For one, grouping all of the color groups into one space each. Look at what this does to the board structure. I feel unsafe here. The reduction of the space count makes the properties way less useful than they were before. In our entire playthrough of this, only one rent was paid from the properties, and it was from the green. Do you know how bad you have to screw up to make green the best option? You also no longer have to pay for the properties, which I never like because they lose that investment quality. You get mad when someone misses your properties in the regular game because you sunk all of your money into this useless piece of trash. Here, it's even more when you consider that these properties could be changing hands constantly due to being stolen on the board or from the chance cards. And in order to make this theft mechanic work, they've had to completely remove the building option altogether. No houses, no hotels, not even a headquarters like in Ms. Monopoly. There's nothing! You also obviously can't roll for rent on the utilities either, so the only group that doesn't feel completely broken here are the railroads. Rare Railroad Revamp W? Let's go! All of this makes the properties feel extremely unimpactful until the end of the game when you turn them in for their value. Really, they're more prize voucher than property. But in order to fill the space on the board that's been left empty by the property reduction, they've added a large amount of chance and community chest spaces. And by that, I mean 50% of the board is community chest or chance. Well, that's healthy. I love when half of the game board is random effects. You know what would make those even better, though? If they made the cards worse! All of the effects on these cards are either take this color group, advance to this space, or get out of, or go to jail. The only unique effect between either deck is that Chance has go back 3 spaces. Other than that, they're the exact same. This might be the worst missed potential out of the whole game. We have 4 total effects on the cards that make up most of the board when we have 2 entire games worth of mechanics to work with? Why not divide into 2 decks, 1 for each game? The Monopoly deck. All of the current chance and community chest effects, along with gain or lose this amount of money, pay this much if you own 2 or more properties, or double or halve your movement speed next turn. The Scrabble deck. Swap or steal a tile from another player. Swap trays with another player. Rotate all letter trays 1 player to the left. Exchange all of your tiles for new ones. I came up with these in less than an hour. When the chance and community chest spaces make up half of the board, those cards have got to have something interesting on them, or else the gameplay just becomes stale. Oh boy, I landed on another chance space, and would you look at that, I take another color group that I already own. Riveting stuff here. If you were playing Monopoly but all of the chance cards were gain or lose $100, would you still be curious about what you draw when you land there? No! So we've got 20 chance spaces that hardly make any impact, 8 property spaces that hardly make any impact, and 1 just visiting space that's there for the brand. Not counting the utilities or railroads, since those have enough board presence to mean something, 29 of the 40 spaces on this board are practically worthless from a gameplay perspective. Aw, look at that bad boy, soar! So we've got a wonderful movement mechanic that allows you to seamlessly glide around a board where nothing happens. Incredible. But hey, a game doesn't have to be perfect for it to be fun, so let's check out that fun factor and see if they can't earn a few points back here. While you are playing the game, you will eventually start to feel like it's supposed to be deeper than it is. Everything at the start gets you into the game easily enough, but after your first lap around the board, you quickly realize that this is it. You just do this until you run out of tiles. This would be helped a lot by a second tier objective that keeps the game fresh. Like how in Monopoly, you start out by trying to get to the properties before you then transition into building them up with houses. Here, you just try to move around the board as much as possible with maybe something happening along the way if you're lucky. It could be that it was made to be this shallow to make it more accessible to kids, but other than figuring out the movement mechanics, nothing here is worse than regular Monopoly, which has the same age rating. It has enough to hold your attention, but falls just short of really getting you engaged. But at the very least, you will still be playing Scrabble the entire time, so you won't be bored. I didn't forget the whack crap this time around, I just need to save it for later, so we'll go straight into answering those 2 burning questions that I asked earlier. First up, is Monopoly Scrabble any good at all? Well, despite the brutal first impressions, yes, I'd say that it is. It's good. Not great, but good, so way better than I was expecting. The way they implemented Scrabble into the movement is really cool. I am very impressed with how well it functions, and it really helps the game stand out from the other titles in these 2 series. That being said, I'm still left here wondering where the rest of the game is? I'm making all of these cool moves on the Scrabble board, and all it translates into is running around in circles on a Monopoly board where hardly anything of note happens. I might as well just be playing Scrabble. If I had to compare this game to one of the other ones I've covered, I'd say it's pretty similar to Global Survival. Laps upon laps around a board where nothing you do really matters outside of a few key events outside of your control sounds like we're surviving to me. Now, granted, this thing is nowhere near as bad as Global Survival. For one, it has a defined win condition that ensures that the game won't take eons, and you still are spending most of your time playing Scrabble, which is still a good game. If you don't like Scrabble, then I doubt you've even picked this one up, but if you still did, then I have to give respect to another professional hater out there. You can't properly hate if you aren't informed. As for where it ranks among the other Target titles, I think it will fall in at second place overall. It lets you enjoy more of the good part than Dude Perfect does, but it isn't as complete of a game as the Game of Life Quarter Life Crisis. So I feel like Silver is a good spot here. Joyous day! You aren't as bad as this travesty! Another disaster averted. I'd normally jump into a strategy segment here, but all you really need to do in this one is try to pass Go as many times as possible and grab the highest value properties near the end. So instead, we'll be ending this one off with that whack crap segment I saved from earlier. You see, we have cause for celebration. Hasbro has finally managed to put together a semi-competent revamp of Monopoly. It's not the greatest game, and there are a ton of issues with it, but considering their track record with the series, an okay game needs to be celebrated. So what was the secret? How did Hasbro finally manage to get over the hump and craft something that wasn't awful? Well, it's simple, really. They didn't. Yes, our little champ here, made from two of Hasbro's most successful games, was not made by Hasbro. Did you really think they could have come up with something this creative? Theirs would have been a Scrabble-themed Monopoly with the letters as the properties, and you know it. No, this game was actually made by Winning Moves Games on license from Hasbro, which just explains so much about why the game is the way it is. I thought something was up when the railroads were given respect. Hasbro would never let that happen in one of their projects. This means that this title was brought to life via one of two possible events. The more likely option was that Winning Moves Games approached Hasbro with an idea for combining both Monopoly and Scrabble into one game, and Hasbro said, "Yeah, alright, sounds neat. Be sure to send us the royalties." But the much funnier option is that Hasbro approached Winning Moves Games and said, "Please, oh my gosh, we are out of ideas. Please help us." I don't even need to pretend that's how it happened. I already have enough funny from the best Monopoly revamp in years not coming from Hasbro. Great job, guys. Stellar work there. Overall, an alright game that could have been a lot better, but also could have been a lot worse. At the very least, though, it's got me thinking about what other electric games could be created by just smashing two titles together. Well, we'll get a first-hand look when my newest game releases, Fatal Breaky. All of the rip-roaring action of Fatal, but every time your character dies, you need to buy a new one. We're expecting to do around 17 million in revenue a year, so if I randomly vanish off the platform, that's because I've officially become a fatillionaire. Signing off for more tile-based trickery, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fan-tastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.